Hello and welcome back to another draft video. My name is Cecilia and today we're going to go over the top 10 corners in the 2026 NFL draft. So, beyond that, this is a very talented class, but I think the sweet spot really is the second round. I, for context, have first round grades on only 2 corners, but I have second round grades on about 10. So we're going to go over the top 10, and beyond that, I do still think there are a lot of guys who can make an impact. I think this is a good corner class, so if your team needs a corner, they can absolutely get one in multiple spots in this draft. So we're going to start at the best. So number 1 for me, and I know that this is a little controversial, is Jermod McCoy out of Tennessee. He's number 3, 6 feet tall, 193 pounds. He was a 3-star prospect out of Texas, started his career at Oregon State, and he has a background in track. He did the long jump, triple jump in high school. Very athletic player. It absolutely jumps out on tape. As a freshman, he got 2 interceptions and 31 tackles, and then he transferred to Tennessee, and in 2024, he actually got 4 interceptions and 44 tackles, a huge step forward. He did his best work in the red zone. That's what stood out the most. It seemed like he was always in the right place at the right time when a big play was needed. A very good and translatable trait, in my opinion, to the NFL. But early in the offseason, he tore his ACL and he didn't end up coming back in the 2025 season at all. And so, he enters the draft not having played football in over a year, but that year was incredible, right? 2024 was an awesome season. So let's look at who he was in 2024. The tape shows someone who always finds a way to know where the ball is going. He always is in frame by the end of the play. He has short area burst. He tempts quarterbacks into dangerous throws, gives a lot of cushion, and then quickly closes the gap. He's able to be sticky on complex routes. He's rarely fooled, even by, the more advanced route runners that he definitely had to face. He really shined in press coverage. He doesn't overextend. He jams receivers who the quarterback clearly hopes will be open right away. He disrupts that. He has contested catch ability. His arms are strong. He's aware of the receiver, pulls his body between the receiver, or puts his body between the receiver and his own hands, if that makes sense. Really gets in the middle in a way that makes it really difficult for receivers. And he's a really fluid athlete, really fluid runner. He can flip the hips, change direction, move backward, all at a high level. And, he sells a different coverage than he executes. That's going to be something that NFL defenses are already going to be looking to do. And he is someone who can plug and play into that right away. Great understanding of route combinations, makes you feel like he knows the opponent's playbook. And, after interceptions, he runs that ball back. Like, he shows his speed, and he doesn't just get the ball. He gets the ball and gets you in good position. Scheme versatile, probably will shine more in zone concepts that allow him to read the play instead of chasing burners upfield. But I think he would be a cornerback 1 on a good percentage of NFL rosters. And it's just a matter of how do you weigh an ACL tear that has kept him off the field for a year, and players often come back a little bit slower. Granted, at his pro day, he ran, I believe, a 4.3. So, clearly he has recovered. Clearly he still has that athleticism, but he also hasn't played football in a year. So you do kind of have to weigh that. And if your team needs a corner long term, that's why for me, I'm putting him number 1, because I'm like, yeah, maybe his rookie year won't be as good as other players' rookie years, but beyond that, he should be the better player, and you're drafting for several years, not just one. So it's a tough evaluation. If you can handle the injury risk, to me, cornerback 1 of the class, and it's not particularly close for me. But beyond him, I do have another first-round grade, and that is Mansor Delane from LSU, number 4, 6 feet tall, 190 pounds, and he spent 3 years at Virginia Tech, became a starter his sophomore year. His junior year was when he really began to shine. He transferred to LSU, continued the upward trajectory. He has 8 interceptions from his college career, great ball skills, and he's someone who can track the ball, get a hand on it really well, and he does a really good job of cutting in front of routes. He usually plays really soft because he's not the best in press man situations. He's just too small of a frame to really be a disruptor. So he's able to crash in on plays that develop in front of him, and he doesn't wait for a teammate to miss before he closes the gap to the ball carrier. So he has really good support. I think that is incredibly important going into the NFL. where players do a better job of breaking tackles. And he's also a really good open field tackler, so he provides a really solid floor of limiting explosive plays and being solid against the run in that way. He's not going to have elite straightforward speed, but he's fluid in the hips, changes direction well, so his coverage doesn't suffer unless he's going back against a really fast, athletic, like burner type of receiver. And he's very sticky in man-to-man coverage. That should translate really well. It makes him especially effective in the red zone, where there's not a whole lot of space to work with, and it's mostly receivers running routes well. I think he can keep up with that. And Mansor Delane plays with an urgency that allows him to be in the right place at the right time. He reads the quarterback well. At times, he effectively can take a wide receiver one out of the game just by never allowing him to be open. And by the end of the season, teams just kind of stopped targeting him, which I know doesn't make for great highlights, but it means he's having a big impact on the game plan of the opponent. And sometimes he doesn't get his head turned to the ball in time to make every play. And he is smaller, right? He's smaller. Bigger receivers are going to be a problem when quarterbacks have to accurately put the ball out of his reach. Like in the NFL, quarterbacks are accurate enough that they can do that. And he struggles a bit to shed blocks when receivers are square to him. Again, kind of a size issue. He really depends on getting outside or inside rather than stacking and shedding. Not the most important thing for a corner. I'm not, trying to say that it is. It's just one of those things where you go, yeah, he's a little smaller, a little shorter arms. That's kind of a symptom of that. He is going to be a lot of people's CB1 in the class. I get it. I expect him to go high in the first round. I don't expect him to get past 12. But, for me, I put Jermod McCoy ahead of him. I think he has a much higher ceiling. I will concede that Delane has a higher floor, but even then, him being smaller makes me nervous. That being said, those are my 2 first-round grades on corners. After that, I'm a little bit lower, I believe, than consensus on the next guy, who is Avieon Terrell out of Clemson. Number 8, 5'11", 186 pounds, and he ran a 4.39 40 in the combine. So he was a former 4-star recruit from Atlanta. His older brother also played at Clemson and plays for the Falcons. He saw lots of playing time from the beginning as a freshman, broke out his sophomore year, and by his junior year, he was very clearly one of the best DBs in the country. Really good at reading a situation, stands out against screens despite his smaller size, just because he is always a little bit ahead of the play. He blew up this trick play that Troy tried to run against them on a field goal. He's just always in the right place at the right time. I know I've said that about the other 2, but this guy, it really is a predictive thing more than anything else. And he runs hard. He closes windows really fast, very decisive against the run, has some great tackle for losses, and he tackles really aggressively. He doesn't quite have the wraparound strength you would want, partially just because of his physical limitations. He's not as long as would be ideal. But it's also partially because of his tendency to tackle ankles rather than bodies, and that would need to be addressed at the NFL level. Corners have to be able to tackle in the NFL, but he brings a lot of energy to the defense, does not shy away from physicality. He excels in man coverage. He likes to match routes because of his route recognition and athleticism. He's always on top of it. He's very conscious of where the ball is. When he rushes the passer, he tries to interrupt a pass. Like when he tackles, he tries to successfully knock the ball loose. He focuses on the ball in coverage, breaks up passes against bigger, taller receivers, just very aware of the football, very much has his eyes on what the actual goal of the play is, which is to prevent a pass from happening or knock the ball loose rather than just, interfere and get the guy out to the ground as fast as possible. So he's a playmaker. He plays bigger than his size. He's really fast and he's disruptive at every possible opportunity. He's going to need some time, I think, to become a reliable tackler. And because of that, I can't really put him in the first round. I think it's possible he goes in the first round. I think there's going to be a big variety in how teams see him. But he should have immediate starting ability as a press man corner, someone you can count on being where they should be. And, I think he probably goes top 25-ish, even though I have a very early second round grade on him. After that, Colton Hood out of Tennessee, number 8, 6 feet tall, 193 pounds, another cornerback with an NFL bloodline out of Georgia. Hood has a background in baseball and track, as well as playing on both sides of the ball in football in high school. In 2024, he played behind Travis Hunter at Colorado, so You can understand why his production doesn't necessarily look great. He wasn't CB1, but in 2025, he broke out after Jermod McCoy went down for the team, and he's athletic. He moves backwards and flips his hips to follow routes extraordinarily well, catches up with receivers, can close the gaps when he makes a mistake. His tackling is very technically sound, very hard hitting, and he's solid in open space as long as he doesn't lunge too far, which is kind of an area that he can improve. But he runs very fast, 4.4 40 time, and he's very in control of his body. Great vertical as well, which shows up in contested catch situations. He's someone who the athletic testing very much lines up with the film, which is always a good thing. And he doesn't quite have the awareness in the run game that you would like. He sticks to his assignments rather than, adjusting to the play in front of him, which is, that's a very much a coachable issue. It's not too worrying. But given his skill set, it is too bad because he has an extremely high ceiling. You'd like to see that floor be a little bit higher. I think with NFL coaching, it can be. He's a versatile corner. He can play close or far from the line. His press abilities tend to shine, and the right opportunities. And with the right coaching, he may very well turn out to be the best corner in the group. He is going to need more time. He needs to be more of a factor in run defense to be a 3-down impact kind of starter. But for me, that is a very high second round grade. That's very promising. And beyond him, one of the favorite prospects in general for me is Chris Johnson out of San Diego State. Number 1, 6 foot tall, 190 pounds, and 4.4 40 time. He was a 3-star recruit, 4-year starter for the Aztecs, although initially was more of a special teams guy, so he does bring extensive special teams experience. 2025 was a serious step forward that I did not anticipate. 44 tackles, 9 pass breakups, 4 interceptions. At the combine, he proved that he was an elite athlete. His technical approach to the game is unmatched in this class. He is so disciplined, so fluid in coverage. He never bites on receiver fakeouts. He can match routes with hip fluidity super well. His effort is awesome, and that includes on special teams, which I think is very valuable, increases the floor of having this guy on your roster. And, he used to be discussed as one of the best 3 corners in the class. He had a couple rough games down the stretch that cooled people off of him, but I think the combine reminded people of what he's capable. And, there is something to be said about someone who improves every year, shows strong flashes in every aspect of the game. There aren't any major weaknesses for Johnson, and I think that's a really big deal in terms of evaluating his floor, both as a defender and a special teams player. And I do think, he's a bit lighter, and that impacts his ability to shed blocks. I think that can improve because I think his frame can handle adding some strength with, an NFL strength program. And he talked at the combine about eliminating half of the route tree in his preparation. And while that will inevitably be harder, more complex in the NFL, his preparation is clearly something he has mastered. He comes across as a mature, high motor kind of corner who will be very coachable. I expect him to grow a lot in the NFL because of that coachability. And the biggest flaw really has nothing to do with him so much as the level of competition. San Diego State is not a Big Ten school, for example, and it's worth noting for a corner, even at lower levels of competition, you do face every kind of receiver. So there is tape on him against, the really fast guys, the great route runners, the bigger guys. So there is tape out there. It's just, some teams hesitate to not take, a SEC corner or Big Ten corner instead. But for me, this is a very high second round grade. Definitely someone I am happy to be higher on than the consensus. As of right now, that seems to be the case, and I'm fine with that. Next up, we have Brandon Cisse out of South Carolina. Number 15, 6 feet, 190 pounds. He is a junior, 20 years old, very quick ascension in 2025 after 2 years of lots of playing time on defense and special teams. He has had a few injuries, teams are going to note that, but he will start his rookie year at least very healthy. On tape, what jumps out immediately is that he is such an explosive athlete. He covers ground so quickly. He's only 6 feet tall, but his arms are very long, and that helps him disrupt passes, helps him make tackles in space. He can match routes pretty well. He adjusts directions really smoothly, and at every opportunity, he is trying to knock the ball out of the ball carrier's hands, and he caused plenty of fumbles. He was very successful at that. He has a real downhill urgency against run plays to the outside. It helps support against screens and sweeps where the edge defender can't contain. And great man coverage defender. I know there's a lot of question marks about him as a zone defender, but fantastic man coverage defender. His tackling technique needs to improve. He tackles the ankles a lot, but he has the tools to give him a really high ceiling in that regard. Really long, strong arms really help with tackling in the open field. The urgency is through the roof. Any chance he has to make a tackle in the backfield, he is absolutely taking it. He is someone who backs up his teammates trying to make a tackle extraordinarily well, plays very physical, just a nuisance to quarterbacks trying to fit the ball into tight windows. And to me, he's a day one starter as a man coverage corner. But if your team favors heavy zone, you may not see as much value. You may have him lower on your board. He doesn't seem confident when he can't just lock in on one receiver. And that's something that is going to have to change at the NFL level. The NFL offenses are just too complicated to only be able to have corners who can run the simplest possible coverage. But, there's no reason that he can't grow in that regard. And it's just unfortunate because these tools that he has as a safety would be incredible. But as a safety, you have to be comfortable reading the offense and not just locking in on one receiver. So, maybe down the line, that is some versatility he could have. But yeah, this is a mid to high second round grade for me. And beyond him is a player I think a lot of people are excited about, D'Angelo Pons out of Indiana. Number 5, 5'9", 182 pounds, notably a lot smaller. But this is one of the players who followed Curt Cignetti from James Madison to Indiana. And Curt Cignetti has said that Pons is his best player. And he's a vocal leader of the team who says he bought into what Cignetti was doing. And if you follow Indiana football, you know that Cignetti's defensive players especially really know how to play physical and how to prepare. The entire defense are fantastic film students. I'm so confident in everyone coming from Indiana, especially on the defensive side of the ball in that regard. And if you look at his pick 6 against Oregon and his interceptions versus Washington, he knew what was coming. Like, the film study is so obvious, and it completely changed the games. It completely shifted momentum, and that's something that, like we've talked about, yes, it is harder to watch film in the NFL, but already having this much of a start means that he can get to his potential and be more useful to defensive coordinators earlier in his career, which I think is really important. Now, obviously, he's short for his position. You would not know it from his ability to get physical with taller receivers because he still has a really stout build. He delivers hard hits every single game. And he loves the physical aspect of the game. He hits people like a safety. He has a track and field background, 4.35 40 time, which is obviously fantastic. And his speed means that he can recover like no one else, which allows him to take chances on jumping routes because he knows that if it doesn't work out right away, he can still close the gap. His ability to move backwards and flip his hips is remarkable. He showed that in the combine drills. Most corners who are draftable are special teams contributors, but he makes special teams coverage a real plus with the team. He had 2 blocked punts, 4 touchdowns. His speed is remarkable, and that combination of speed and physicality and tackling ability are so important in terms of kick coverage and punt coverage in the NFL level. He struggles a bit against comeback routes. NFL quarterbacks can target that in a big way. He wasn't used often in the slot, but at his size, I think teams are they're going to push him into the slot. They're going to hesitate to put him outside where he could be, 6 inches shorter and 25 pounds lighter against the guy he's going up. And I don't know that NFL teams are going to give him a chance to do that. He naturally has a harder time getting off blocks to attack the run, which only adds to his need to read plays quickly, which he has shown that he can do, but that's just never really going to be a strength of his at his size. And to me, this is a mid-second round player who should be incredible in coverage. Like, in the right system, used correctly, he should be a fantastic coverage corner. But he needs to adjust to being a slot defender, and you need to accept that he is not going to be a big factor in the run game. But absolutely love D'Angelo Pons. He's going to be a fantastic player. And again, we're talking mid-second round. After him, Keith Abney from Arizona State, number 1, 5'10", 187 pounds. In 2023, he was one of the best freshman corners in the country. He worked his way into a starting role after beginning as a special teams and rotational player. He actually has a speed skating, specifically roller skating background, and I have to wonder if that helped him get so good at backpedaling and changing directions, because obviously for speed skating, your balance has to be incredible and you have to have such control. And, this past year he got 2 interceptions, both because of his own awareness, not just because a throw was poor, and because of that athleticism and that ability to shift direction. He got 9 pass breakups, only 2 missed tackles across the entire season, which is really great for a position that tends to have to make tackles in the open field. He tackles with a great peanut punch, often pinning a receiver's arm against his body so that he can't complete the catch. And he is the guy who times the tackle so that the second a receiver touches the ball, they are taking a massive hit. And that is something that even at the NFL level, there's a lot of receivers who are afraid to take hits. And there are a lot of quarterbacks who smartly don't want to throw into that. And so that has value even on plays where the ball doesn't go to him. And he anticipates routes, clearly a big film student. That helps him get his hands on the ball. He's athletic enough that he can take risks that pay off. He can jump in front of routes, covering receivers he isn't assigned to, because he does such a good job of keeping the receiver and quarterback lined up in his sight so that he can react quickly. He fights hard, he loves hitting hard, creates turnover opportunities, and he has solid run defense to back it up and raise the floor of his play. Obviously, he's a little bit small. There will be serious mismatches in the NFL if he isn't protected by the scheme. He'll be best in an off-man zone situation as a nickel corner. And he bites hard on the double stutters that receivers like to do. He can be a little over-aggressive, which NFL receivers will be better positioned to take advantage of. But that's very coachable. His frame can handle adding some more muscle, so that's promising. And the reason he isn't higher on the list is, unfortunately, he does kind of have a penalty issue, which I think comes from that physical competitive play style. It is possible to grow out of it. I don't think he does it out of panic. I think he is just so physical and needs to learn exactly what the limitations are, which the greater attentiveness of an NFL coaching staff should be able to help him with. And this is another mid-second round kind of player who should grow to be a solid, maybe CB2 from pretty early on in his career. A lot to be excited about with him. And next we have Keonte Scott from Miami. He's 6 feet tall, 194 pounds, and what jumps out is he is very explosive athletically. He makes mistakes, but he recovers from them really well, so he's rarely punished for them. He makes tackles in the backfield from the nickel, and you can see the track background on tape. He mirrors routes at a really high level, clearly a film watcher with how ready he is to jump on a screen. Obviously, Ohio State fans will remember him for that. But he has great instincts, reads quarterbacks really well. His run defense is fantastic. His aggression pays off. He can stack and shed blocks he really shouldn't have the size to be able to do. He is an older prospect. His coverage isn't as consistent as you'd like. This isn't going to be a lockdown kind of corner. But he does, he has an interesting blitzing ability. He's fast. He reacts to quarterbacks trying to dodge him really well. So some creative defensive coordinators can definitely use that. And I think this is kind of where we're getting to the late second round. The last prospect I want to talk about real quick is David Igbinoson from Ohio State. Number 1, 6'2", and 189 pounds, 4-star recruit out of New Jersey, started his career at Ole Miss, transferred to OSU after a productive freshman year. He started every game for the Buckeyes since, so very, Iron Man in terms of health. And that includes also the national championship game in 2024. He's fast, athletic, physical, makes receivers earn everything that they get, uses his length advantage to throw off receivers early in their routes, and he completely removes the back shoulder and has real ball skills. He's a high-effort run defender, is often in the right place at the right time to recover fumbles. He disengages off of blocks really well for a corner, and he ran a 4.4, and you can see that speed on the field. Very fluid athlete. I think, one of his best traits is he is one of the most physical players on the field, which is pretty impressive considering where he plays. And his potential is through the roof. I am concerned about the 30 career penalties. That is too much to overlook. You have to anticipate that it's going to take a lot of time to coach that out of him. He just struggles not to grab when he's losing the rep early on, and he's not the best tackler. But these are coachable issues. I think his range should start in the late second round, ideally for a zone-heavy scheme that won't depend too much on him mirroring twitchy receivers. So those are my top 10. All of them should go in the first 2 rounds, in my opinion, but let me know who you think I left out. And real quick, if you're wondering why I left out Traden Stukes, surely he should be, number 8, number 7, something like that. I'm evaluating him as a safety. I think he makes much more sense as a safety at the NFL level. If I were evaluating him at a corner, as a corner, it'd probably be number 8. but I'll be evaluating safeties soon. So for me, that is my top 10, 2 first-round grades, and then a bunch of second-round grades. So if your team needs a corner, I think this is a great year to go for a corner in the mid-rounds, ideally on day 2 to get the most value. But I wouldn't be surprised if there's a run on corners early, because it is just hard to get really good corners in this league. So thank you so much for watching. My name is Cecilia, and I will see you guys next time.